Hi, my name is Joni Martin. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator who loves to play with paper. Today, I'm going to show you how to make 3 cards that require no stamping on the front. And the advantage of this is you can decide what you need to use the cards for and add a sentiment when you need the card. As you watch my video, I'll be sharing tips to make your paper crafting easier and your projects look great. Thanks for joining me today. My first card, I'm going to use a sunflower card. Everything I'm using is listed on my blog. I'll add the link when I'm done here at the bottom. You'll be able to see the link to the actual directions and supply list. The color I'm using today is called Bumblebee, and I picked it because it matched the plaid. I don't know about you, but I love plaids. And this is a plaid from a paper pack called Plaid Tidings. So my card base is 8.5 by 5.5, and that's half of a sheet of an 8.5 by 11, so you can get 2 card bases from that. And I'm going to begin by folding this in half. For me, it's easier if I use a grid line. I just get a straighter line. I'm going to use the bone folder from Stampin' Up! To get a nice sharp crease. Again, easier for me. My hand strength is not always the greatest. Now, I'm a big believer in not sending naked envelopes. If you've gone to the work to make a beautiful card, you want to give someone a hint of that before they open the card. So when they get the envelope in the mail, right away they know there's something special in there. And I do that by either stamping or adding matching paper to the paper flap. So today I'm going to show you the paper flap idea. I take a scrap of paper that's 2 1/4 by 6. I'm a big fan of liquid adhesive. You'll see me use it a lot. But really, use the adhesive you're most comfortable with. You'll get your best results that way. And I'm just going to put a little bit around the outside of the envelope flap, staying on this side of the fold, like so. And then I'm laying this piece down, and it's going flat against that envelope, right up against that fold. When you close it, you want to see it on this side and not on this side. We'll come back to that at the end of our card. I have my card front, and this is a Whisper White piece, and I don't know if you can see, but it looks like pine wood boards. And in fact, it looks like that because I used an embossing folder called Pine Wood Planks. Now on this video, which I'm making for some friends of mine at the Cobb Library, all the pieces are cut. They're picking up card kits, so I won't be using my new cut and emboss machine, a favorite of mine from Stampin' Up! All that is done. But again, on my direction list, I have more specifics. So I've cut my card front and I've embossed it with pine wood planks, and that just gives it a little bit of texture. We're going to be using the yellow or bumblebee side of my flower. And this piece is cut out of my card mat. So before I do anything, I cut this out of the center because it's going to be covered up anyway. So let's use that real estate. So this piece is going here. I'm going to put a little bit of glue just on the outside. Oftentimes you'll see me throwing glue in the middle. I don't want to do that this time because there's nothing in the middle yet. So we're going to do this. And just like so. Do you know what? I'm going to just quick show you another tip first. Sorry about that. If you ever get out of order on your cards, I want to add this little yellow strip, and it's going to be easier if I do it before it's on the brown. I'm going to add it a 1/2 inch from the bottom. You put it wherever it works for you. So on my grid paper, that's 2 rows. Did you know you can buy this grid paper from Stampin' Up? I don't think I can make a card without it anymore. I really rely on it. So it's going to go there. I'm using the side that has a more pronounced embossing, just to point out there's a softer side too. So go with the look you like. And you could do this with a variety of print papers. I'm a big fan of the Plaid Tidings, but any kind of paper really that you want to pick the color. Start with the color you like and then go from there, because the color of the paper will determine what color you want to put on top. So that's going to go there, and by using the grid paper, I just feel a little bit more comfortable that I can get it straight. There we go. The thing about liquid adhesive is you do need to give it a second to set. That's a good thing in that if I have it wrong, I have a second to move it. It's a not so good thing if I get in a hurry and then it moves on me to where I don't want it. Now let's go back to where I was. Thanks guys for staying with me. There we go. And now this piece is going to go right here. I have cut this 1/8 inch smaller than my mat. So I just want just a little bit of that. We call this color in Stamping Up Land Early Espresso. It's a beautiful color. Okay. There we go. Now, when I get done, those leaves are going to poke from behind this flower. So the easiest way to do that is to put those leaves down first. And I just kind of lay them up in that corner. And I'm grabbing tear and tape. You could use Scotch tape. You could use a dot of glue there. I'm just telling you it's a little easier to do that step before the flower goes down. And the flower covers up so much of it, you don't have to be really that exact about where it's going. All right. Now, actually for the trickiest part of the whole card, and it's not that tricky, guys, but I just want to give you some tips. We're going to attach the outline shape to the salad underneath. There's only one way it's going to fit, and you can just keep moving it, but I'll tell you how I find it. When you look at this, all these points kind of go straight out, except these three start to tilt towards the right. So if I can find the spot on my background that also tilts towards the right, once I get one of the tips in the right spot, they're all where they need to be. So I'm going to, again, because I like this, you could use a tape runner, you could use glue dots, use what you like. I'm going to just put a little bit of this behind it. I'm looking for those 3 points, but the good thing about glue is this liquid glue, if I don't have it exactly where I want it, I can move it. Okay, so we went from kind of a funny shaped blob to a sunflower just by adding that cover. How easy was that? We're going to grab this, and this is going wherever I kind of want on my card front, as long as I cover up that tape. Now, speaking of that tape, I'm going to pull the backing off. It's very slick, and so the glue won't adhere to it anyway, and by pulling it off, I now have something else that's going to help hold my flower down. So that's going to go there, like so. But again, if you don't have tear and tape, any other kind of tape, a little bit of glue, a glue dot, any of those would work. Look at this. We are almost finished with our card. I'm now going to go to that card base I folded in half, and I'm going to put that in the center. Oh, I love this card. Yes, this is where we now can add glue to that big opening in the back. There we go. This is a perfect card for around here right now. It's just beautiful. All the fall colors are out. It's great weather. There we go. And again, this would be a card you could use for lots of things. So I have cut the centerpiece out of that bumblebee. I'm going to grab a dimensional. And a dimensional is just a piece of foam that has adhesive on both sides. That works. You could glue it flat. And I'm going to pop off the back. For me, it's easier to use the take your pick tool, but your fingernails work too. That's going to go there. And when I got this far, I just felt like it needed one more thing. So I grabbed some gold embellishments. You can find the item number in my blog that will be linked below. When I add embellishments, I like to add in odd numbers. And I like to make roughly a triangular shape. So I'm going to pop this one, maybe here. I think I'll keep them all above that line, not that it really matters. And we'll throw one up here by the leaves. And, oh, let's go a little higher. One right there. There we go. Honestly, guys, adding the embellishments sometimes takes me the longest when I'm deciding. For the inside of my card, which I'm not going to do anything with yet because I'll use it once I decide, but I've cut a piece the same size as my mat, 4 by 5 1/4, and often I just store this in here. So when it's ready, I can stamp a sentiment or add a note, because this card would work for so many things. We're not quite done. Remember that envelope flap we glued on? Use your envelope flap as a guide, and we're just going to trim off the extra. like so. And you don't have to be real exact. But again, a great use of those random kind of pieces of paper. And card 1 is done. Let's look at card 2. Okay, we're going to set that one aside. And now we're going to look at card 2. For this card, I didn't use white. I used very vanilla. You could use either. We have a paper pack called In Good Taste, and it has all these great wood grains. And this looked like barnwood to me, which made me think about birds. So in here, look at this little bird. It's very open, which I like. I mean, to me, this looks less about being so realistic and more think about, you know, kind of woodcraft, think about folklore, folk art, that kind of was the look I'm going for. So we're going to again start with our envelope flap. I'll set this aside. You might be surprised how quick this one goes together. Again, I just grabbed a scrap of 2 1/4 by 6. So on a 12 by 12 sheet, if you were doing lots of cards and wanted to do matching envelope flaps, you can get 10 of these from a 12 by 12 sheet and you'll still have some pieces left over to do something else. So like that. I'm going to set that aside. This green is called Old Olive, but really there's so many colors you could make this card design work with. So I'm going to fold my card base, again, getting a nice crisp fold. This opening and the bird and our sprig here of leaves were cut from this die called Birds and More Dies. Again, listed on my blog. So I wanted to have that background look just like that, kind of a neutral, but you don't need a whole piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just adding adhesive, and it's thin enough. It's not going to make a difference when you lay your card down. It isn't that one will be that much thicker than another, but I'm just laying adhesive there, and now I'm covering it up with this. Like so. And again, you could use glue dots, liquid adhesive, whatever you have. This is going on here. This. I first designed this card when I had a customer request. I sell a lot of handmade cards. I had a customer who needed 2 birthday cards, masculine, for bird lovers. And so this kind of fit the bill. I don't think you'd need to use it for a masculine card, but certainly bird lovers. Again, I think depending on what you put on the inside, it wouldn't have to be a birthday card either. I think it would be a nice sympathy card, a thank you card, thinking of you. There we go. Now, this piece, it brings a little color down here, but I'm kind of laying it not on the edge of here, but more towards the green because I want it to look kind of like it's coming off of the green of the card. You know how the plants kind of take over? That's the look I'm going for there. This is pretty narrow on the back. Again, you could use glue dots. You could use the liquid adhesive. I'm going to show you how to use glue dots on this. And I have 2 different glue dots to talk about. If you are a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, you have sheets of these. They always come in our Paper Pumpkin kits, and they're glue dots. And what you do if you have these kind of glue dots is just grab a couple leaves, like so. And sometimes when I send out card kits, this is what I include because they're just so much easier to use rather than send part of a roll of something. Okay, so you're just going to do that. And then you're going to peel off the back. But you may also be familiar with this kind of glue dot. And if you have those, these glue dots are slightly bigger and they may be too big for your leaf. So then you're just going to roll them and lift them up. And let's plop that one, right here. So either glue dot will work. A touch of green glue would work. I'm going to add one more right here because I want the leaves to kind of be caught. So if I want a really skinny piece of a glue dot, this is a trick. Take your scissors and while it's still on the plastic or still on that roll, cut it. Now I have half a glue dot, which is even smaller, of course, but it's perfect for something like this. I'm gonna grab the other half. So wherever I'm attaching it, I just have a touch of glue. It's not gonna smear on me. I think I'm gonna do one more because I want it down there. And so just like that. So that's another easy way to get a small piece of adhesive right on there. So that's gonna go there and there. And now the only trick with these glue dots is just taking a minute and getting rid of all the back pieces. These are really staticky, so they're gonna wanna stick to everything. So just make sure they don't land somewhere else on your card. So I'm pulling those off. Whoops. In my order of cards today, I actually did the trickiest first, and that wasn't very tricky, was it? So they just get easier and easier. None of them are very hard. They're nice cards to kind of sit and put together. In fact, they're so easy you could be putting them together if you need a card in a hurry. So here's my little twig. I have glue on the back, and I'm just having the green come off the edge of the barnwood, not past this fold, and then just let it kind of fall and lay down. Like that. So it looks like the green's coming off your card base. So I made sure I cut it out of the same green. And then I have this adorable kind of folk art bird. And I'm just going to kind of decide where I want it first. Like maybe just even there. It's very open. You're going to see the background through it. That's okay. It's meant to look more like kind of folk arty. There. And I'm going to use those glue dots again to pop that down. Oops, I have another backing here. We'll get that out of the way. There. And now, if the openness of the bird is not something that is a look that works for you, I get it. Grab a scrap of a different color, like a darker blue, and glue this on and then just trim around the bird. And that background will be filled in. I like the openness because of the openness of the leaves, but again, it's your card. Reflect what you like. There we go. And I laid him down here first so I could kind of tell where I was going with it. I want him to show, but I also want his feet to be on the branches. There, let's do that. And there's our bird. Oh, I like this card. Go back to our envelope. Use this as our guide, and we're going to trim off that excess. There we go. Just like so. And again, I have cut a 4 by 5 1/4 that's going in. I'm just going to store it on the inside. And when I'm ready to use this card, it's ready to go for me. And there is card 2. Look at that. Okay, I'm just going to get us a little reoriented here, pick up our crafting space, and look at card 3. Card 3 uses another embossing folder called Dandelions. I think one of my favorites because there's so many ways to use it. Let me show you what we have here. We have a very pretty color called Pretty Peacock. Now, there's no print paper on the front of here. So you have a couple options. You could grab that embossing folder and emboss the dandelions on here, but I wanted to use a paper option. So Stampin' Up! Sells 6 by 6 paper packs in every color that we sell the solids. So I just grabbed one of those. It's the same color. It still says to someone getting our cards, oh, look, something special came in the mail. Someone sent me something amazing. Let's see what it is. Again, we know how to do this by now. We're just laying this strip next to the envelope fold, like so. We're going to give it a second to set. Now let's talk about our card pieces. This is my card base, and I'm going to fold that, making sure I'm straight and I have a nice crisp fold. I embossed vellum. If you haven't worked with vellum before, it's a very opaque paper. It feels a little different than cardstock or the print papers we used. It's beautiful, and it adds another dimension to your cards. It can be a little tricky to attach because it's so opaque you can see the adhesive through it. So I'm going to show you a couple tricks with that. I'm attaching it to a piece of paper that's in the same color family but slightly different because I wanted it to pop more. This is called Pool Party. So the first trick is to get this attached. Now we're also going to be using a ribbon, and the ribbon will hide some of the adhesive. So I'm using tear and tape. You could use any adhesive you want. It doesn't really matter. I think I'm going to throw that ribbon about 3/4 of the way up. So on my grid paper, I'm just using 3 squares. And I'm going to just run a piece of this tear and tape across the back. If I didn't have the ribbon, you would see this strip on here, but the ribbon's going to cover it up. It also will give me a guide as to where to put my ribbon, so that's kind of nice. So I'm going to lay this back down here, and that's where it's going to go. But we also need just a touch more adhesive than that. So before I set it down, this embossed part kind of will hide my adhesive. So I'm going to grab, you could use the liquid glue, but you know what? I'm going to go back to these glue dots. They are so opaque, and you don't need a lot. And I have so many of them, I'm happy to use them up. Like sheets of them. I'm a huge fan of Paper Pumpkin, and so we get them every month in Paper Pumpkin. Paper Pumpkin is a monthly subscription kit that I keep talking about. There we go. And I know some people who watch my YouTubes are Paper Pumpkin subscribers, so they also have these. Notice I'm not using a ton, and I'm kind of just putting them on randomly. And we're going to pop that off. There. Just like so. Easy peasy. And believe it or not, this card is almost done. So it's really pretty quick. I think adhesive is going to be your longest, take the longest time. And you could do this technique if you had a different kind of embossing folder you wanted to try it on. But try embossing on vellum. It just has a nice look to it. Okay, if you didn't have vellum, you could emboss on white and do the same thing, or a different color blue. And actually it would be easier with adhesive too. So now this is going to go down. I'm just centering it. Let's start there. You can't even see my glue dots, honest, but you can see where that tape is. So now I have a piece of ribbon about 15 inches long, and I'm going to find the center. And remember, we put that 3/4 of the way. So on the back of my card, 3/4 of the way, I'm going to attach this ribbon. Glue dots are perfect for that. It doesn't need a lot to hold it. So I'm just going to throw a couple of those down. I love that I'm going through all these glue dots. It just seems silly to have them sit on my shelf and have that much product just sitting there. I might as well be using them. And I have a very good crafting friend who doesn't like them, so I kind of love to show her different ways to use them, just to say, use them up. Okay, this is going down. And this is just a pool party ribbon. There's all kinds. And then I'm going to, I think I'm going to do a bow, but you could just tie a knot. That would be fine. Whether you're going to tie a knot or a bow, this is what you want to do. Grab a glue dot or a touch of that liquid glue and put it where you want the bow to be. For me, it's easier. I don't know why. It just works better if I work upside down with my bow. So I'm going to kind of move this where you can see it. And I'm going to start with a knot and catch that knot right there. Okay. Now I'm going to make a little tiny bow, but you could just knot it and trim it, and that would work too. I have a loop here, and I have a loop here. And I'm going to tie a knot with those two loops. Like so. Now I'm just going to play with it to get it where I want, because it's kind of being wonky on me today. So here's what we do. Oh, it really is being wonky. We're going to try again. Sometimes that happens with knots. Let's just see if we can get it there. And sometimes it's less the knot and more my fingers, but that's okay. Let's do this. If your knot's really giving you trouble, which this one wants to do, I'm going to start to make sure it's flat as possible, and I'm just going to quick knot it again. Then it's not going to move on me, which will make it easier. There. Okay. Now, we're just going to take 2 bows and make a knot. I don't want a very big bow, and I can adjust this once I pull that second one through. I just kind of want it to kind of stand on there. Then I'm going to pull 1 loop back, like the tail here, see? I'm pulling that back, and I'm pulling this back. There we go. And the good thing about tying a bow, if you get this far and you think, yeah, I don't think it's a bow, kind of, well, actually, the more I play with it, the more I like it. But if you don't, just untie the bow and trim your ribbon a little shorter and have a knot on the front. But the more I work with this, the more I think I like this bow. So here's the other thing I do then. Yep, there we go. Sometimes you just got to give it a little, tell it who's boss. I don't like these kind of like ends sticking up. So again, guess what we're grabbing? The glue dots. And we're going to pull this out and put a glue dot on the back of here. Like so. And just glue it down. Kind of show that end who's boss. And another one. Like here. Yep, I'm glad I stayed with the bow. I was going to untie it and just do a knot. But I like that little tiny bow there saying, hey, look at me. So cute. Now, all we have left is to put it on our card. How easy was that? I made it look harder with that bow, didn't I? But it doesn't have to be. There we go. And maybe just a little extra on the back of that ribbon so it stays in place. Open up our card front. And put it down. There, now you see what I was going for? Once you have that dark background against there. This is a card, though, honestly, it looks better in person. I'm not sure how much my camera is picking up that detail. But there we go. And this ribbon is soft enough. It looks kind of bulky, but it will be fine in your envelope. It's flat. So there is that. Let's go back to our envelope. And I'm going to just trim. So. And we have finished the 3rd card. So we have 3 cards. Again, my insert is just going inside to be used later when I need it. We have 3 cards. We did no stamping on the front because we want some choices later about how we're going to use these cards. They're cards that could be used for a variety of occasions, which are great cards to have on hand. You can make any of these into a birthday, a sympathy, a thank you, or a handwritten note that says, hey, I'm thinking about you today. Send a card. Make someone's day. Thanks for joining me.